The morning Nora Callahan bought the most worthless piece of land in Colfax County, the county clerk laughed. Not a polite laugh. Not the kind a man covers with a cough. The open, genuine laugh of someone who has just watched another person make a mistake so complete it circles back around to entertainment. $12, he said again, as if repeating it might help her understand. I can read, Nora said. She signed the document. The Beaumont homestead had been abandoned since 1902. 8 years of New Mexico wind and sun and neglect had taken everything soft out of it and left only the bones. A 2-room house with a caved-in roof, 40 acres of dry hardpan, and a well that the clerk assured her had gone dry before the previous owner left. Nora Callahan was 31 years old. She had arrived in Cimarron 3 days earlier on the afternoon train with a leather bag, a deed from a dead man's estate, and the expression of a woman who has already decided something and is simply waiting for the world to catch up. She had $31 left to her name after the purchase. She had something else, too, but that part came later. The next morning, a black Model T turned down the dirt road toward her property. A man in an expensive coat climbed out. He was holding more money than most people in Colfax County would see in a lifetime. He wanted her land. He wanted it badly enough to bring 3 men with him. And Nora Callahan, standing in front of a house with a hole in its roof, looked at the money and said, "No." What followed changed everything. About the land, about the man, and about what was buried 40 feet below the dry, hard pan of a homestead nobody had wanted for $12. The year was 1910, and the Santa Fe line had been running through Cimarron, New Mexico for 11 years, long enough that the town had grown a second saloon, a telephone exchange, and a hardware store that sold both wagon parts and automobile supplies. Because the world was changing, and Cimarron was changing with it, however reluctantly. Nora Callahan stepped off the afternoon train on a Tuesday in September with the posture of a woman who has been many things in a short life and has recently become something new. Widow was the newest. Her husband, Daniel Callahan, had died 4 months earlier in Chicago, a construction accident on the new elevated railway line, the kind of death that happens to men who build the modern world and receive in exchange very little of what it produces. He had left Nora 3 things: his name, his debts, and a letter from a lawyer in Cimarron regarding a small parcel of land that had come to him through a distant uncle's estate, and that he had never mentioned because he had apparently never considered it worth mentioning. Nora had considered it worth mentioning to herself on a train west. She was not running from Chicago. She was specific about this in her own mind, the way people are specific about things that matter to their sense of themselves. She was moving toward. The distinction felt important in ways she couldn't fully articulate and didn't try to. What she knew about the Beaumont land she had learned from the lawyer's letter and from 2 hours in the Chicago Public Library, which had a territorial land survey from 1887 that had lodged in her mind and refused to leave. She had a theory. Theories, she had learned from her father, a geologist who had died broke but intellectually satisfied, were either the most valuable things a person carried or the most expensive. The difference was in whether you were right. Nora Callahan believed she was right. She picked up her bag and walked into Cimarron to find out. The county clerk's name was Harold Fitch, and he had been processing land transactions in Colfax County for 19 years, long enough to have developed strong opinions about which parcels were worth wanting and which were not. The Beaumont homestead was firmly in the second category. "The well's dry," he told Nora across the desk, with the tone of a man doing a civic duty. "Has been since '02. There's a reason James Beaumont walked off it, and a reason nobody's bought it in 8 years. I understand, Nora said. The roof's caved on the east side. The fencing's gone. Animals took it down, or men took it for their own use. Either way, it's gone. The hardpan on the East 40 hasn't grown anything worth cutting since 1887, Nora said. Fitch stopped. What? That's when the land survey noted a change in the soil productivity of the eastern parcel. 1,887. She looked at him with gray eyes that carried more patience than the conversation warranted. What happened in Cimarron in 1,887? Fitch opened his mouth, closed it. I've been here since '91, he said. I wouldn't know. The Moreno Valley oil seep was first reported in 1,887, Nora said. 14 miles from this property. The geology of the Cimarron Range suggests a continuous formation that would run... Ma'am, Fitch said, you're buying a dry well and a broken roof for $12. Yes, Nora said. I know. She signed the document. Fitch took her $12, still shaking his head, and stamped the transfer with the resigned efficiency of a man who has decided that some lessons can only be learned through experience. Nora folded the deed into her bag. She had one night in the boarding house on Main Street before she went to the property. She spent part of it writing a letter to a man in Denver whose name her father had given her years ago, the last time he was right about something. She spent the rest of it not sleeping, which was how she usually spent nights when something important was about to happen. His name was Arthur Gould, 45 years old, silver at the temples, with the ease of a man who had never once stood in a room where he wasn't making decisions about things that belonged to other people. He arrived the morning after Nora's purchase in a black Model T, driven by a man who was clearly not a driver by trade. Too large, too watchful, the specific alertness of hired muscle given a temporary steering wheel. 2 more men had ridden alongside on horseback, which Nora noted was a curious combination. Car and horses, old world and new, assembled in the service of the same purpose. She was standing in front of the house assessing the roof damage when the car stopped on the road and Gould climbed out. He walked across her land with the ease of a man who considers ownership a formality he finds mildly tedious. He stopped 10 feet from her and looked at the house and then at her, with the expression of a man recalibrating. He had expected, Nora understood immediately, someone easier. Mrs. Callahan, he said. Word traveled fast in small counties. I represent certain interests that have been monitoring this parcel. I understand you purchased it yesterday? This morning's news travels quickly, Nora said. I'd like to make you an offer. He produced an envelope. $100,000, cash, cashier's check, or wire transfer to any account you name. Nora looked at the envelope. $100,000 in 1,910 was a sum that could purchase an entire city block in Denver, fund a small school district for a decade, or transform a 31-year-old widow from a woman with $29 into someone who never needed to worry about money again. She looked at the envelope for exactly as long as it took her to confirm what she already knew. No, she said. Gould looked at her with the expression of a man who has said a number that has never before failed to end a conversation. Perhaps you didn't hear the... I heard you, Nora said. The answer is no. After Gould left, which took longer than it should have because men like Gould are unaccustomed to leaving without a different answer than the one they arrived with, Nora walked the property. She walked it the way her father had taught her. Slowly, on a diagonal, not along the edges, stopping every 20 feet to crouch and look at the surface, to pick up a handful of soil and feel its texture, to notice where the dry grass grew differently than it did 10 feet in any direction. You know what that black stain in the dirt was? It was oil. Creeping up through the rock, 30, 40 feet below the surface, killing everything it touched on the way up. The kind of sign that looks like failure, dead crops, poisoned soil, but means the exact opposite if you know what you're looking at. Her father had shown her that sign once, on a piece of land in Colorado that a man had sold for nothing the year before it made someone else rich. Nora was crouching in the dirt of the East 40, and she was seeing her father's handwriting in the ground. The well told the same story. A well that goes dry in a region with consistent rainfall doesn't go dry from lack of water. It goes dry when something displaces the water table. Something less dense than water, rising. And the smell. Faint, easily dismissed by someone who didn't know what they were looking for. Her father had called it the smell of the future. She pressed her palm flat against the dry hardpan and held it there for a moment. She had $19 left, a broken house, and a letter in the mail to Denver. She had enough. Before we go any further, just one moment. Where in the world are you listening to this right now? Drop it in the comments. Your country, your city, wherever you are tonight. I read every single one. Now, here's what Gould didn't know when he brought his lawyer to that property the next morning. Nora had spent the night reading, and what she found in that abstract of title changes everything. Stay with it. Gould came back the next morning with a lawyer. The lawyer's name was Preston, and he arrived with a briefcase and the smooth manner of a man who has converted many reluctant property owners into willing ones. He set the briefcase on the hood of the Model T and produced documents with the efficient choreography of someone who has done this before. "Mrs. Callahan," Preston said, "I want to be clear about the legal standing of your purchase. The deed you hold was processed correctly, but there is a prior claim on the mineral rights of this parcel dating from 1896 that was not cleared at the time of transfer. Our client holds that claim." Nora looked at the documents. She had spent the previous evening reading the abstract of title she'd requested from Fitch, a document he'd produced with the weary compliance of a man who has decided this particular widow is more trouble than her $12 purchase warranted. The abstract went back to the original Homestead filing in 1879. The 1896 mineral claim, Nora said, was filed by a company called Territorial Resources Associates, which dissolved in 1903 when its registration lapsed. An unrenewed mineral claim on abandoned property in New Mexico Territory reverts to the surface owner under the revised statutes of 1897, Section 14, Paragraph 3. She looked at Preston. "I read the law last night. It's not long." Preston looked at her. Then he looked at Gould. Gould was looking at Nora with an expression that had changed from the day before. The recalibration had gone further. He was, she realized, actually seeing her now. Not the widow with the broken property, but the person who had spent the night dismantling his legal strategy with a statute he thought nobody outside Santa Fe knew existed. "Where did you study law?" Gould asked. "I didn't," Nora said. "I studied geology. The law was supplementary." A silence settled between them. "Mrs. Callahan," Gould said, and his voice had lost the transaction tone entirely. "May I speak with you privately?" Preston retreated to the car with the practiced discretion of a lawyer who has learned that some negotiations proceed better without him. Gould stood in the dry grass of the Beaumont homestead and looked at Nora Callahan with the expression of a man who has revised his understanding of a situation and is deciding how to proceed from the revision. "You know what's under this land," he said. "I have a theory," Nora said. "It's not a theory. We had it surveyed in 1908. He looked at the East 40. There's a formation running under this parcel that connects to the Moreno Valley structure. Our geologist estimates recoverable reserves of considerable size. How considerable? Enough that $100,000 is not a generous offer. It's a fair one. Nora looked at the house, at the caved-in roof, at the old fence post still standing where someone had once nailed a board with numbers burned into the wood, the remnant of a for sale marker, barely legible after 8 New Mexico winters. Why does a man with a 1,908 survey wait 2 years to buy a $12 property? She said. Gould was quiet. The prior mineral claim, Nora said. You filed it in 1896 through Territorial Resources Associates. You let the company lapse in 1903 because you intended to refile under a different structure once the surface deed transferred. But the deed never transferred because nobody bought the property. She looked at him. Until me. Gould looked at her for a long time. You worked that out last night, he said. I had time, she said. I don't sleep well. Something happened in his face then. Not the business expression, not the transaction tone. Something more unguarded. The look of a man who has encountered something genuinely unexpected and finds, to his own surprise, that he doesn't entirely mind. What do you want? He said. Not the way he'd said it before. The real question. Nora looked at the East 40. A partnership, she said. 40%. My name on the operation. And I want to understand every decision. What followed was not immediate. Men like Gould do not agree to 40% partnerships with 31-year-old widows on the same morning the partnerships are proposed. There were lawyers, different ones this time, Nora's. A woman named Clara Hatch in Santa Fe who had been practicing land and mineral law for 12 years and who read Nora's situation with the precision of someone who understood exactly what was being negotiated and what it was worth. Women had been practicing law in New Mexico territory since the 1892, not with ease, not with welcome, but with the stubborn persistence of people who had decided the door's reluctance to open was not a reason to stop knocking. The letter Nora had sent to Denver came back before the week was out. The man her father had named was a petroleum engineer called Thomas Vane, 61 years old, who had worked the Spindletop field in Texas in 1901 and had opinions about subsurface formations that he expressed with the careful confidence of someone who has been right enough times to have stopped needing to perform it. He arrived on the Friday train and spent 4 hours on the East 40 without saying a single word to Nora. She watched him from the house. He crouched, he dug, he pressed his face close to the ground. She saw him do it, the way a man does when he's reading something the ground has been writing for decades. At dinner, he ordered his food and ate half of it before he spoke. I need the samples back from Albuquerque before I'll say anything certain, he said. But, Nora said. He looked at her. But your father was right about this valley. A pause, long enough to matter. And so are you. Nora had known. But knowing and hearing a petroleum engineer say it across a dinner table are different things entirely. And she allowed herself, in the privacy of her own chest, the specific relief of a person whose theory has been confirmed by someone who had no reason to be kind about it. The negotiation took 3 weeks. During those 3 weeks, Nora lived in the boarding house and worked on the homestead every afternoon. The house needed a roof before winter, and a woman visibly improving a property she intends to keep sends a message that lawyers cannot send with documents. She hired 2 men from town for the heavy roof work. She fixed the well herself, not dry, as it turned out, but blocked. A collapsed section of casing 40 feet down had diverted the water table sideways. The well came in on the third day, clear and cold. During those 3 weeks, Gould came to the property 4 times. The first time was with his lawyer. The second was with his lawyer and a geologist. The third time he came alone in the morning and found Nora on the roof with a hammer and stood at the fence for a moment before she noticed him. She noticed him noticing her and set the feeling aside for later. On the second night after that third visit, one of the quiet men from that first morning came by the property after dark. Not Gould, one of the riders who had flanked the Model T. He stood at the fence for a long time without speaking or moving. Nora watched him from the window with the lamp turned low. He left without doing anything. She started locking the door after that, which she hadn't thought necessary before. And she sent a note to Clara Hatch in Santa Fe the following morning, describing what she'd seen, dated and specific. The kind of note a woman makes when she wants a record to exist before she needs one. The fourth visit was the evening before the papers were to be signed. Gould came alone in the car and parked on the road and walked to the fence. "I want you to know something before tomorrow," he said. Nora came down from the porch where she'd been reading survey maps. "The offer I made the first morning," he said. "I knew it wasn't fair." "I know you knew," she said. "I'm telling you because—" He stopped. "Started differently. I've negotiated a great many land deals. I've never had one negotiated back at me by the person I was negotiating against." "Is that a complaint?" Nora said. "No," he said. "It's not." The evening was doing what New Mexico evenings do in late September. Going gold, then copper, then a blue so deep it was almost a sound. The mountains were visible to the north, holding the last light. "Why did you come back?" Nora said. "The third time. Alone." Gould looked at the mountains. "I wanted to see if you were still here," he said. The papers were signed on a Thursday morning in Clara Hatch's office in Santa Fe. 40% to Nora Callahan, 60% to Gould's operating company, which would provide the capital and equipment for drilling. Nora's name on the partnership agreement. Her approval required for any decision affecting the surface rights of the property. A provision, at Clara's insistence and Nora's quiet gratitude, ensuring that revenue would be split after expenses without the accounting maneuvers that had made men like Gould wealthy at the expense of men like Nora's father. Gould signed without argument. His lawyer looked at him. Gould didn't look back. Thomas Vane supervised the first drilling operation in November. The first well took 14 days. Nora was there for all of them, not watching, working, running supply runs to Cimarron, coordinating the equipment schedules, learning the operation from the ground up the way she'd learned everything, by being present and paying attention. On the 14th day, the oil came up black and slow at first, then steadier. Vane said something technical to the driller. Nora wasn't listening. She optical was thinking about a Tuesday afternoon in 1903, standing in a Chicago kitchen while a lawyer explained what died intestate meant. About a father who had spent 30 years being right about the ground and never once figured out how to turn being right into something that lasted. The oil kept coming. She put her hand in it, just for a moment, just to know the temperature of it, the weight of it. It was warm. She hadn't expected that. I want to stop here for a second. Her father died in 1905, spent his whole career being right about what was underground, and never saw a dime from it. And she took everything he knew, got on a train with $19, and turned it into this. That's not just a Western story. That's a story about what we owe the people who taught us how to see the world. All right, one more part. Gould found her at the wellhead. He came out from the equipment tent in his expensive coat, which now had a sleeve stain from an encounter with a drilling cable that morning, and stood beside her, watching the operation with the expression of a man who has built things all his life and still finds the moment of first production affecting. "Vane says there are 2 more potential wells on the East 40, he said. "I know," Nora said. "I read his report." "Of course you did." They stood in the cold for a moment. "I've been thinking about what you said," Nora said. "The night before the signing, that you wanted to see if I was still here." "It was a straightforward statement," Gould said carefully. "It wasn't," Nora said. "It was a question." He was quiet. "The answer," she said, "is that I intend to be here for a long time. This is my land, my father's knowledge, my theory that turned out to be right." She looked at the wellhead. "I'm not going anywhere." "I wasn't asking you to go anywhere," he said. "I know," she said. "That's what made it interesting." The oil came up steady from the New Mexico ground in the cold November light, and the mountains to the north held their snow. And somewhere in Cimarron, Harold Fitch, the county clerk, was processing a drilling permit for the Callahan-Gould operation on the former Beaumont homestead, and revising, quietly, everything he thought he knew about which land was worthless and which was just waiting. Nora Callahan had paid $12 for 40 acres of hardpan and a broken house. What she had actually bought was her father's life's work, finally arriving at its purpose. The ground kept its secrets for a long time, but not forever. The Callahan-Gould Petroleum Company was formally incorporated in January of 1911. The first year of operation produced revenue that made the $100,000 offer look, in retrospect, like the opening number in a negotiation that Arthur Gould had never expected to lose. He didn't consider it a loss. Nora Callahan kept the original deed, $12, signed by Harold Fitch, stamped with the seal of Colfax County. She had it framed and hung in the office she built on the property, a proper office, not the boarding house table where she'd spent 3 weeks reading survey maps and land law by lamplight. Visitors sometimes asked about it. She told them it was the most important $12 ever spent in New Mexico. And there it is, a widow with $19, a dead man's theory, and a piece of land that everyone else had passed on for 8 years. A millionaire who brought 3 men to a negotiation and left having agreed to less than he came to offer. And 40 feet below, a hardpan field that couldn't grow wheat, the ground that had been keeping a secret since 1887. Before you go, drop your country in the comments. Just that. I want to see where